everybody, welcome to Versus. It's week 3 of 3 in this franchise. We made it all the way to the end. I am Calamity John Maher. That is the virtuoso Will Cohen. Will, how you doing this week? We made it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Like
So this week-
after everything that I went through this week, including a very bizarre illness that caused nausea and vertigo of all things. Somehow this is still the worst thing that happened to me this week.
Yeah. If you haven't been following us last 2 weeks, we're covering the Humpty Dumpty franchise, which I guess technically it is a franchise. I mean, I can make 3 movies on my camcorder and call it a franchise because that's what they do nowadays. The first 2 movies are Jagged Edge properties. This is, I think, Champ Dog Productions, though still part of the ITN umbrella, produced the 3rd version of this movie using archival footage from the first movie, though. So it's just a jump to the left. And they've added a lot to the canon. I'm gonna wax poetic. I'm gonna wax philosophical about Humpty Dumpty this week. Let's just jump right into the trailer. So this week we went from the curse of Humpty Dumpty, then we went to the cult of Humpty Dumpty. Child's Play stopped naming its movies that after that point, so they were out of luck with what to rip off. They just called it The Madness of Humpty Dumpty.
Hello there, Humpty.
I don't want you to worry this week.
What about the rest of my life?
A lot of great things can come from this place.
I think it might have been a bad idea us coming here. I've been seeing and hearing things since the moment we got here.
Always here to rescue, day and night.
Hello?
You managed to get any sleep last night?
That's cute. Bring him down to keep me company?
I didn't bring him down. I thought you did.
JWMaher.
Ain't you an ugly little fella?
Tom?
Was I hallucinating, or was there like a dramatic lack of score in that trailer?
No, you were not.
Okay.
And honestly, finally we get truth in advertising with one of these films. If only because clearly the person who cut the trailer didn't give a shit about what he was cutting a trailer for, which is fine because the people who made this film just didn't give a shit what they were doing.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense.
Now, if you recall, okay, so let's see where we're at in the franchise. In the first movie, Lynn was alive. She had, her family is dead. She is alive. The doll she has is intact. In Cult of Humpty Dumpty, Amelia is alive. Everyone else is dead, and she destroys Humpty Dumpty. Right? In this movie, the same lady who runs the shop in the first movie rebuilds the doll again. Right? And the weird thing is they always have eyes. There's always like loose eyes. But the mask has eyes. So you don't need to add eyes to it because the eyes were built in. But I digress. And they build it again, though in this movie, the doll was a possession of one of the characters when she was a child. So the need to build it seems unnecessary since it was left behind at her house. Am I right so far?
This is sounding a lot like that Charlie Day like murder board.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, it's trying to make sense of these films more and more just feels like you're just going nuts. And honestly, that's why we're here, folks.
Yeah.
Is because we try and find some kind of method in the madness. And it's fair that this is the madness of Humpty Dumpty. But, we have the madness and we're still trying to find the method, folks.
A few things I want to point out that I've learned. I consider myself an expert now in Humpty Dumpty. So I think that what we learned, if everything we've seen is canon, if you have, it's kind of like a Lego set. If you have the pieces, regardless of like, none of these pieces are unique, apparently, because that mask, which looks unique, obviously there's multiple copies of it. So if you have all of the pieces and you just have a desire to have Humpty Dumpty in your life and you put him together, he's there. What purpose does he serve? I don't know. Is he a malevolent spirit? Is he a trickster god? Can he be the reincarnated spirit of whatever you want? He's whatever you want him to be. He's like the silly putty of trickster gods. He's whatever the hell you want. And the way, if everything we've seen in all three movies is canon, he can exist in multiple places at the same time, because the doll from the first movie was never destroyed and they've rebuilt him again. So he is now currently in two places at once.
Which would have been so interesting had they done something about that.
Yeah, they don't mention it. I'm just telling you that having passed logic in college, that has to follow that he is in two places at once. And I'll point out the clip right here. In this movie, it's kind of like a Pumpkinhead type thing, because when the main character Bailey is a child, she has the Humpty Dumpty doll, and given how they report how that doll acts, she communicates with it. Not unlike Andy and Chucky, not unlike it, but she is such good friends with this Humpty Dumpty doll that there's another boy in the farm down the road, and she did not give this boy the attention he deserved, and the boy winds up dying. Or I don't know if he dies from sadness or he kills himself. I don't know. Then the parents get so upset that first of all, his grave is a cardboard tombstone and the coffin is above ground. And the coffin stays above ground for decades. So that's horrible. That you wouldn't even bury your son. You just leave him. You leave his dead body out to the elements, regardless. And they've somehow transplanted his soul into the Humpty Dumpty doll, which already was Humpty Dumpty, but now it is the boy.
Bring back to me the fruit of my wretched loins.
Is that right?
Consulting murder board. Sure.
Right. And we have the character of the boy's mother as a young woman, and then we have the character of the boy's mother as an old woman, though their personalities are absolutely divergent. They are not the same. Like, you have this vengeful, it's so weird. Young mother, vengeful.
Curse the girl that penetrates into the circle of blood. Raise them mad spirits. Punish the whore that did this to my son.
Old father, vengeful. Old mother, nicest lady.
I better be off. Oh, it's been lovely to see you again, Bailey.
Yeah.
But
there's this is just us trying to tie the lineage together at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm not even done yet.
Yeah, we haven't even scratched the surface of the plot of this movie. if you
Right,
can
okay.
call it that.
So as usual, the funny thing is, not that this is a Jagged Edge movie, but the Jagged Edge family of movies, this always seems to happen. They have this one gigantic house in the English countryside, and part of the plot always has to be like, how do we get these characters to this house? And 99% of the time, it's either like an Airbnb or somebody's parents died. So we have Bailey, who is the young girl in question, who of course moved away. Then her parents died, and she's allowed to go back to the house, whatever. She has a boyfriend who's an author, and they are in love. But she has the most misunderstood, misrepresented case of schizophrenia I've ever seen committed to film. So she's struggling with mental illness. Her boyfriend, though, loves her and is there for her, regardless of her symptoms, which range from mild to severe to is she mentally ill? I don't know. Talk more about Bailey, Will. How do you feel about Bailey?
I don't even know where to begin. First of all, like I kept on getting distracted by the fact that she was obviously the great value version of Kirsten Dunst. It was the most distracting thing about it. I kept on thinking of all the films that she should have been in if this woman could actually act.
Right.
But then she has like the most wishy-washy goddamn boyfriend I've ever seen, because he keeps on saying, "Oh, I need to write," but then he drops everything to help her.
It's you and me, babe. I want to let nothing happen to you.
1 minute, and the next minute,
what do you want, Bailey? I'm trying my best.
It's getting worse. It wasn't this bad in this city.
Stop.
We need to go. This is insane.
You know what? This is insane. What you're telling me is so incredibly insane.
he refuses to help her for major things. Oh, you need a sandwich? Okay, fine. I will drop everything and make a sandwich for you. But then, she asks for a glass of water, and that's too much.
Right.
It's like, really, dude? Really? Okay,
yeah,
fine. I'll go help you investigate this murder. Oh, but you want me to go upstairs? Oh, God.
And the weirdest thing, the architecture of the house is so weird because they're upstairs. And then where her childhood bedroom is, the doorway is 4 feet tall. They have to literally just go under the door. Who builds a house like that?
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. I woke up when you went in bed.
That's, and of course that's the room that Humpty Dumpty is in, under a sheet. He's there. So now, if everything we've said is true, that Humpty Dumpty doll, which has been sitting in that chair, is inhabited by the spirit of the dead boy, but he lives down the street from his parents. But he'd rather sit in a chair with a sheet over his head for 15 years.
Not playing with anything, not being I don't know, what kind of fucking childhood did this kid have?
I mean,
that is the optimal use of your time.
Right. So this woman, Bailey, who is, admittedly mentally ill, boyfriend is, at this point in the movie, not to spoil anything yet away, at this point in the movie is thoroughly concerned with her well-being. This retreat is for them. It's a good idea to just let her go wander. And this is not the city. This is the country with a capital C. So she's wandering around, and of course, that's just where this little boy's open grave is, with the shitty Halloween decoration tombstone, and mind you, the above ground coffin. Couldn't even dig a hole to put the coffin in.
Maybe they just kept on working up to it. It's like, what else was on the list? Build puppet, get TiVo, bury kid. We all get busy.
So she runs into her neighbor Lois, who is the mother of the kid who she feels Bailey contributed to his death, and also is the one who transplanted the soul of the child into the Humpty Dumpty doll. But they get together, and it's just like it's a delight. Like they're friends.
If it isn't little Bailey Shepherd, not so little these days, I see.
I'm sorry, I'm not very good with names.
I'm Lois. Lois Fall.
Then they wind up going to Lois's house for tea. A natural thing happens where like Lois kind of becomes younger Lois and is angry at Bailey, right? But then we find out that it's just one of Bailey's hallucinations, and she's not really angry. She's being nice to her.
Shut the fuck up, you little bitch. Sweetie, okay? What's wrong? Sweetie, what's wrong? You okay?
And then Humpty Dumpty, who is her son, mind you, kills her.
Angry.
Which, if obviously the first thing I would want to do when coming back and being reincarnated is kill my creator. The number one thing on the list.
Yeah, kill my mother / the person who has given me eternal life. Yes. And then like this movie drags a lot in the middle, right? There's a ton of dragging, like because then like we find out that Lois's husband is a police. He's like a constable, I guess they call it in that area of the world, and he is thoroughly hung up on what happened to his kid. More on that later. He also has a partner who shows up in 2 scenes, right? Then also we find out that the boyfriend, his name is Tom, has a crazy ex-girlfriend named Lauren, who also shows up.
There he is, my Tommy baby. I knew you'd come around.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Which is I can't even. We'll get back to Lauren in a second too. So the big reveal is that Tom has replaced Bailey's medicines with placebos. So he's actively encouraging her to be, psychotic. And he is the most evil man ever because he writes his plan in large block script in a diary and leaves it open. Like, it's so funny. Like, if I'm an evil person, it's like, replace Bailey's meds, watch her go insane, write my book, and then I'm just leave that out in the dresser. Who writes out a plan like that?
I mean, you have to hand it for Tom for being at least somewhat thorough in, making sure there's a checklist.
Yeah, maybe he also has a mental illness where he's very forgetful. Just like, oh, that's right, Humpty Dumpty makes you forget stuff, even though he's not tied to Humpty Dumpty. He just needed to write that stuff down in case he forgot that he was clearly in the country just to fuck his girlfriend over.
But you see, at least that's in canon, because if you come into contact with Humpty Dumpty, you tend to forget shit. And as you saw in the trailer, he comes into contact with Humpty Dumpty a lot. So wouldn't it have been great if they would have said, oh, hey, what if he's in on it? This film is
he's
only
not really in on it. He's in on his own thing. Like Humpty
True,
Dumpty,
but
as far as Tom's concerned, Humpty Dumpty is just like a decoration in his mind. He didn't know anything about the memory issues, but he prepared for it.
But at the same time, this film feels like one of the longer films of the franchise here.
Only 74 minutes though.
Oh, is it? Okay, so it's shorter.
It's short. It just feels long because all of the major plot points we've talked about only encompass less than 10 minutes of the movie. There's a lot of walking through fields and looking at graves that are not graves.
Yeah, that's true.
I wish I could be more interesting about this movie. But okay, so Tom turns on his girlfriend for no reason because he wants to write a book and he feels like encouraging his girlfriend to go insane is going to be a great book. She's not that interesting. Humpty Dumpty is actually a little boy and he fucking kills everybody.
I will let you live. As long as you promise.
He kills everybody. The crazy girlfriend that shows up, he kills Tom. He kills his father. Like it's no rhyme or reason. Then he's chasing Bailey, who's supposed to be his best friend, around.
Let's play tag. I'll give you a head start. I'll count down from 10.
Right? And I believe she just knocks him out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then at the end of the movie, because we don't need to talk about this much longer, at the end of the movie, she has clearly embraced being one of the animated mentally ill people, because now she has her hair in pigtails. She's talking an octave higher. She's very happy. She's euphoric. And we find out that she just has Humpty Dumpty like tied up like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction in a bedroom in the house. And that's how the movie fucking ends.
You won't believe what I saw. A police officer. Can you believe it?
The Madness of Humpty Dumpty. Did I leave it? I mean, honestly, I'm kind of like done with this franchise. Please don't make any more of these. Unless you're going to embrace the fact that like you can create infinite Humpty Dumptys and they can be whatever the hell you want. I'm down with that. Make it. He's Agent Smith from The Matrix, but in real life. Did I leave anything out?
Which that would be fascinating. But again, like even if like the writers of this would have like realized, hey, there are two Humpty Dumptys, like having that ending, and then like even like the even having like in like the last like few seconds having the other one burst through the door would have been so interesting.
And also in the Jagged Edge multiverse, Humpty Dumpty appears in Freddy's Fridays as one of Freddy's minions. And it's the same doll. So that means we know that the Freddy from Freddy's Fridays also invoked Humpty Dumpty, but that Humpty Dumpty is just a bitch. So there's at least 3 Humpty Dumptys out there in the world if all these movies take place in the same universe.
We'll assume that that's multiplicity rules, and they made a copy of a copy.
Yes, that's why he doesn't have much of a personality in that movie. I'll toss that clip in here as well. Well, that's the Humpty Dumpty trilogy, and Will, I hope you've prepared us a drink for today.
And boy, oh boy, did I find one. If you have been paying attention, I told John, wouldn't it be great if I was able to find a trilogy of cocktails? The very first week started off with just a cocktail called the Humpty Dumpty. Then I found one very unusually aptly titled called Humpty Dumpty Resurrected. This one, I'm pretty sure, encapsulates true madness of Humpty Dumpty. And the name is so batshit crazy. Shout out to tipsybartender.com for providing me with this week's cocktail, called, and I shit you not, Peace and Humptiness Forever.
All right.
And why do I think that this is the perfect one for madness of Humpty Dumpty? Well, the first ingredient is absinthe.
All right. How much absinthe put in there?
About 1.5 shots, essentially. Like
That's a lot of absinthe.
1.25 ounces, which is a lot of fucking absinthe. And then you make up that second part of the 2-shot cocktail with brandy.
That's gonna taste weird. Okay.
It's gonna taste very strange, but it doesn't stop there. So then you get 1 ounce or a shot of lemon juice.
All right.
This one I found really interesting. Maybe this is going to destroy the flavors you get from everything else. But a shot of Chinese 5-spice infused agave.
All right. I imagine that exists, but I've never had it. But okay.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure if you can't find it, you can make it.
All right.
I'm sure all you have to do is just get Chinese 5-spice, get agave syrup, mix it, boil it, just do some dog shit like that. And then we keep going.
Okay, what else we got?
A shot of cream, sparkling apple cider.
What? Cream and apple cider? Okay, this is making me vomit. Go ahead.
This is the part that made me laugh, just because of how they phrase it. It says egg.
Just egg?
And then it says one undefined. When you look at the recipe, it makes more sense, but they did not phrase that very well at all.
They made an egg white, or they did a whole egg?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So here's what you do. In a shaking glass with ice, combine the absinthe brandy, lemon juice, agave, cream, and egg white.
Okay.
You shake vigorously. Because maybe shaking it vigorously would make this a saner cocktail. I don't know. Remove ice and shake once more because, it's, dick rules, I guess. I don't know.
Froth it up.
Pour mix into glass and top with sparkling apple cider. And then garnish with the last ingredient that wasn't in the list for any reason. You garnish it with a star anise.
Of course, and those are easy to find. Unless you narrow Whole Foods, if I don't have that, that's fine.
Well, I can tell you right now that my local grocer actually sells the whole ones for some fucking reason. But just reading off that list, it's perfect for this film because this film, that cocktail will easily get you fucked up before this film, before the runtime of this film is over.
True that.
And we will ensure.
When should we drink it?
Every single time Tom denies any random request from Bailey, and he does this often. Like I would say at least take a sip. If it's like I would say take a sip if it's a reasonable time to decline the request. Take 2 if he's just being an asshole.
And then I'll piggyback on that. Anytime they show the little boy's disgusting grave, take a sip. Like anytime you're like, wow, his parents hated him, take a sip. That should carry you through the 74-minute runtime, I would think.
Any single time that Bailey has a weird hallucination that makes the film look more intelligent than it should.
Anytime they just add psychedelic trails to the movie for no reason, take a sip.
Like that bitch needs to go to an optometrist. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Let's see. just take 2 sips just for shits and giggles, just because they had to duck through that goddamn door. Why did they have to duck through that door?
It's just the way the house is built. And the house is, again, it's a very nice ranch style home. Obviously, like in the modern day market, probably pretty penny, but I've seen that house in at least 5 other films.
And finally, I would say, take at least 1 sip when Humpty Dumpty, possessed by the boy, kills someone where it clearly had no motivating aspect to it.
True that. He's just a homicidal maniac. Well, that's going to wrap our coverage of the Humpty Dumpty trilogy. But starting next week, we're going into a brand new trilogy not seen before on John versus Jagged Edge. Also made 3 dinosaur hotel films, not to be confused with Dinosaur Prison, which we've covered on the show already. There's 3 dinosaur hotel films. So next week we'll be back with Dinosaur Hotel, And so, do your research or don't. We're going to cover the movie either way. Until then, if you made it this far in the video, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Mondays, we got Versus. Thursdays is Why We Love Horror and Horror Headlines. And Fridays, Why We Love Horror Trivia. Here on the Why We Love Horror channel. I'm JWMaher. That's Will Cohen. This has been Versus. Stay cool.